So this is definitely not the video that was originally going to come out today. I wanted today's video to be the next deck tech that I was doing because Magic the Gathering Foundations is coming out and I want to talk about Niv Mizzet. And I guess that video is going to be coming out tomorrow, but instead I need to make an announcement for everybody here. For those who might not know, I have a main channel. This is my secondary channel. My main one has been covering politics for a pretty long time. So much so that my efforts on that channel caused me to regress into some harmful behavior towards myself. And as a result, I have dialed back some of the content that I am doing on that channel in order to focus on this one. And then election night happened. And that was, as of recording, about an hour ago. This should be coming out at 8 a.m., and, well, we need to have a chat about this community and, well, all of you. First, let's get one thing out of the way. Donald Trump is our president once again. What does that mean for all of you? For those of you who really don't want to hear this because you don't like getting involved with politics, I implore you to stop thinking that way. If you don't care about politics, that is entirely fine, but I guarantee you it cares about you. Politics, the people in power, they control how much you're taxed. They control where that money goes. They control which human rights are recognized. They control whether or not you control parts of your own body. They control where your children are allowed to be educated, how much money goes into that. They control whether or not it is better to pull the plug on you if you are in a hospital. That is the amount of control that people in Washington and even your local elections have over your day-to-day life. It's not just the gas prices and the color of the person on the ballot. It's whether or not you have a candidate that is willing to support smoke bombing his own people or, you know, doing some of the nasty stuff that actually has been talked about by Donald Trump. So anyway, that is besides the point, though. All I'm asking is for you to stick with me and care. For once, I just need people who would rather spend their time escaping the reality around them to realize that escapism is not the most healthy thing you can do. We're at a stage now where we have a fascist in the office again. And if you don't believe that Donald Trump is a fascist, I am sorry, you are wrong. I will provide a video in the description of my own research detailing exactly why he is a fascist and exactly how many points on the fascism scale by Umberto Eco, who did wonderful essays and a fuck ton of very, very qualitative research on fascism himself. So if you don't believe me, that's entirely fine. I've already researched this. I am already correct. Now, my arrogance out of the way, and your arrogance currently typing in the comment section, let's go ahead and talk about what this person is planning on doing. So, first of all, why am I saying this on a Magic the Gathering channel? Well, quite frankly, Magic the Gathering is a queer space. This is a place where people who are polyamorous, gay, bi, trans, all people of all walks of life end up coming here and playing games with one another. And for those of you who find yourself to be more conservatively leaning, you play Magic the Gathering with a bunch of closeted queer people half the time. Some of them may not be comfortable showing themselves to you, and after tonight, they're probably not going to be comfortable for another 4 years. So, here's where we need to talk about what Donald Trump is planning on doing. He wants to attack gender-affirming care for trans people. He's mentioned it over and over again. He specifically said, and I quote, "On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding on any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto our children." Now, what is inappropriate political content? Who the fuck knows? What is transgender insanity? You know, that scientifically backed thing, which if you would like me to provide a bunch of sources on that, I can do that as well. I am not going to argue the existence of trans people in my comment section. I'm going to provide sources in my description, and I'm going to tell you that if you don't think that trans people are valid, you're wrong. The science says that you're wrong, and there's no debate on this. Nobody who actually studies this shit for a living has an actual debate on this anymore unless they are a pundit, in which case their job is not to study this, their job is to tell you what to think about this. Anyways, when Donald Trump says that he wants to enact an executive order that is going to cut education funding when they talk positively about things like, say, transgender identity, what does that mean? Well, that means that children who do not just gain all of their formative memories from their parents, but they also gain it from the environment they grow up in, it's going to be a very, very threatening environment for those kids to learn that trans people are not their enemies. If right now you think that trans people are gross, disgusting, or otherwise evil or immoral or what have you, I implore you, ask yourself where you got that belief from. Ask yourself where that came from, where the root of that is. And don't just say, oh, well, I asked myself and I came up with an answer. No, let me know in the comment section what it is and allow other people to further a line of questioning for you. Because again, and I hate to say this in an arrogant way, you're wrong. It's a good idea for us to explore why you're wrong. Donald Trump wants to enact what he says is Agenda 47 and what we know is Project 2025. We know that within the 900-page document of Project 2025, again, a link can be in the description if you need, there is a clause for reinstating the transgender military ban. The trans military ban never needed to happen in the first fucking place. In fact, actually, for a lot of trans people, the only real avenue they have to seek medical care is to go into the military, as it's one of the few places that is guaranteed to have a very good medical plan that is not just something propped up there to keep you hooked in forever. It's one of the few places trans people can go to guarantee an education and to guarantee, again, medical care, which will allow them to transition and live as their real, authentic selves. Donald Trump also wants to limit LGBTQ workplace discrimination protections. Right now, we already have a ton of places that are employment at will, and it's very sketchy whether or not a company can fire you for any myriad of reasons. But if Donald Trump gets what he wants, then companies can literally just fire you for being gay, which, again, is what removing LGBTQ workplace discrimination protections means. Again, just go actually read Project 2025. It's in there, in plain fucking text. We would be rescinding healthcare protections as well for transgender people in general and urging Congress, at least Project 2025 and the Heritage Foundation, want to urge Congress to define gender as male and female only, which may seem reasonable for some of you, but also to say that it is fixed at birth. If congressionally gender is considered fixed at birth, then trans people have even more of an uphill battle to get themselves the care that they need. Now, again, why am I saying this on a Magic the Gathering channel? Again, this is because this is a very, very queer space. You may not realize that a lot of your friends around you that are playing Magic with you are gay or trans or whatever. You might not realize that. And a lot of that might come down to the fact that your friends do not feel comfortable telling you who they really are. And that's a thing that you need to solve. That's a thing you need to figure out. Figure out why your friends don't feel comfortable being their authentic selves around you and only want to use the veneer of a trading card game to spend time with you. That said, this is not an attack on people who voted for Trump. Let me go ahead and make that clear. I know a lot of you really want to be angry at Trump voters, but that's part of the system. That's something that is literally programmed into our system right now, and we don't need that. What people who voted for the Democrats need to do is figure out why the people who voted for Trump did so and figure out where their friendships actually lie there. Because, frankly, your vote has a lot of power, but it does not have so much power to destroy the friendships around you. What we need to do right now is rally together as friends to protect those in our community. Let's say you voted for Trump, but you know that you have a friend who is trans who may have to face congressional scrutiny over their gender and may end up being put in a position where that friend is not able to get HRT anymore and may end up feeling a lot more suicidal as a result. Again, we have stats on this to show where this goes. So what do you do then? Well, if you're a more liberal-minded person, provide a safe space for that individual. And if you're a more conservatively-minded person, provide a safe place for that individual. Be an ear to listen to, be a shoulder to cry on. Legitimately sit down and hear what your fellow gamers, what your fellow friends are saying. Listen to what they need. Listen to what they want. Listen to their pain. Listen to what's going on right now. Because as it stands, right now, while I could sit here and point blame at a whole bunch of people for why the system is corrupt and screwed up as how it is, the reality is we have to live with one another. If you are in this space, if you're a Magic the Gathering player in this space, you owe it to your other friends in this space to provide a safe place for them, as their human rights may be being revoked. If you are in a financial position to help people vacate the country if they need to, then that is a thing you can do if you are in that position. Hell, that's something that I'm considering doing because I have a trans girlfriend, and that's something that terrifies me with the current political landscape. I don't know what's going to happen in the next 4 years. I'm terrified because of what happened the last time Trump was president and the amount of human rights that were rolled back for, again, trans people the last time he was president. The trans military ban being a huge one of them. More uphill battles being put for HRT in lots of red states being another one of them. Be a friend to your friends. Ultimately, politicians win when we are at each other's throats and acting like this is some kind of sports match. That doesn't work. What works is coming together and pulling our power together. You may not agree with everything that your neighbor believes on their trans identity or their sexuality or what have you, but you can hear them as a goddamn human being. You can be there for them when they need it. And trust me, they're going to need it now more than ever. And this leads me into my next thing. Now that we've basically all but confirmed that he's going to be our presidential candidate, let's talk about what's going to happen. He's already got the Supreme Court in his pocket. He's already poised to get the House in his pocket. He's already poised to try to get the Senate in his pocket. This means that he will have overwhelming power in this country, something that is terrifying to think about with a system that is supposed to be built on checks and balances. You need to be finding others around you that you trust. Ultimately, fascism as a historical form of governance comes into being when people feel isolated, when people feel lonely and they are willing to rally behind a strong man. Do not let your friends around you feel lonely. This is not just conservative people. Go seek out your friends who are liberal, who are feeling isolated right now. Friends who are liberal, go look at your conservative friends right now and see if they are feeling isolated. Hell, the world right now is not kind to men specifically for a variety of reasons, and people can get isolated and feeling suicidal incredibly quickly. An environment like that grows people who want to look up to somebody as a strong man for a community, and that's ironically how you end up getting fascist presidents. In the 1970s and 80s in Chile, their dictatorship aimed to keep people in very tiny nodes of trust, atomizing the citizenship so that everybody effectively was an island unto themselves. At social gatherings and parties, people would not introduce each other by name for fear of figuring out who was involved where in what political party. Oh, by the way, Trump has said that he wants to figure out who didn't vote for him and do something to them. Lord knows what. So, yeah, it's a good idea, regardless of which side of the political aisle you're on, to not let fear breed distance within you and your communities. The time to come together and learn who your neighbors are and spend time with them and grow fast friendships, that's now. Not just for your mental health, but literally it is one of the things that helps prevent fascism from growing. I'm dead fucking serious. And again, I'm not using fascism as a catch-all term, because there's going to be somebody in the comment section that says, do you call anything you don't like fascist? No, I'm not doing that, nor have I in this video. Again, I'll provide a video in the description where I go into every detail of why this man is who he is. The next thing we need to do is stop worrying about the stuff we can't control. Adam Conover did a wonderful video on this, and there's also a post about this on wagingnonviolence.org. There's a lot of people who are talking about releasing that which you can't change. Recognizing that if Trump becomes president, which seems to be the case, that is something you cannot change. And beating yourself up over not being able to change that isn't going to help you, and it isn't going to help anybody else either. There's going to be so many issues that you cannot change. All the more reason to focus on your local communities and the friends around you. We can't react to every bad thing that happens every single day. And there's actually Holocaust survivors who have gone on record to point out how it's not a healthy lifelong strategy to try to stop every single evil in the world. You stop the ones that you can, and you try to make life better for those around you in the meantime. That's a healthy lifelong strategy. Accept humanity, accept that we're flawed, but if you don't do that, if you just berate yourself for humanity not being able to solve all the world's problems, then you're just going to beat yourself up. So I guess the best thing to say here is step 2 is be kind to yourself. Let go what you can't do anything about and just recognize that the world around you is about to get a lot darker. So you should probably shine a light around your local surroundings and your friends a whole lot brighter. This means that also, if you are trying to change the world around you, there's a couple things that don't actually help. Doing symbolic actions, like organizing a march or making a public statement, probably not going to do a whole lot right now. Publicly angsting, posting outrage on social media about everything, talking with your friends, and sharing awful news specifically about how bad the world is right now, probably also not going to do anything right now. That is the kind of behavior that leads to doomers right now. Yes, if you're going to do a march is not anywhere near as effective as an organized strike. Don't form a march. Start a union and get a union organized to engage in a strike to get better health care for yourself, as an example, especially if that health care is at risk under a Trump presidency. The next thing that I would ask you to do is don't censor yourself. Don't try to play it safe. The more of us that censor ourselves, the more politicians there are that are going to be getting their polling data saying that we're not the people that are going to be voting for them. If you want to fight for trans rights, start talking about the trans rights that you need to fight for. This is much different than posting online about how bad the world is and reacting to every bad thing. This is about trying to engage in positive change. Let's also get one thing out of the way, too, while we're talking about this. Honestly, most political ground that people lose, it's freely given. Political space that we don't use, we end up losing in general. Most power that is given to an autocrat is usually given freely, whether it's given over in the democratic process or it's just something that you didn't want to talk about with your friends about being important to you, and then suddenly those friends voted against your best interest. This means that the last thing that I think everybody who's going to be living under the current reality of United States politics needs to understand is we haven't lost Yeah, an election was lost. So what? We still live here. We can still fight for our rights. You can still get involved by trying to get elected for local offices. You can still campaign for your local politicians that you do believe in. If you don't believe in yourself enough to do that job on your own, you can still organize and try to get unions started as more and more anti-union propaganda tries ramping through the nation. Hell, Elon Musk is going to be trying to fight against you personally. Any political space that you do not use right now, you will lose right now. Losing to Trump in 2024 for every one of you who was affected by his presidency is not the end. This should be a galvanizing war cry for each and every one of you to start getting politically involved, start caring about the world that you live in, start caring about the way our states are going to operate when it's your children these politicians are going to be governing. If you don't feel like you owe it to yourself, you owe it to the next generation. And if you don't feel like you owe it to them, you owe it to your best friends. And if you don't feel like you owe it to them, then what the fuck are you doing this far into this video? Honestly. Your best tools right now are going to be empathy. More than anything, the absolute best thing you can be is a shoulder for people who need it, a safe place for people to be, and an empathetic person for those of you who may be different to you. And this goes for every side of the political aisle. But I can tell you which side I have a lot more sympathy for right now. For those of you who are on the more liberal side of politics, your conservative friends aren't stupid or hateful right now. At worst, many of them might just be ignorant. And after all, you may not owe it to them to educate them on how the current political landscape is going to affect your life. But what's going to happen if you don't talk to them about this in a respectful manner? You're just going to end up losing your friends, and now both of you are going to get more isolated, and the more isolated and atomized everybody is, the easier it is for political despots to take and maintain power. Let's prevent that from happening. Let's come together as a community, talk about what we need, not the things that make us different, but what we need to survive. And what you'll find for most of us is that most of our needs are not zero-sum games. It's just some dipshit up in Washington that convinced you that your rights and somebody else's rights are zero-sum games against each other. And you got played against each other in a two-party political system that, yeah, has one party I think is marginally better than the other, but they both fucking suck. Finally, in regards to safe spaces, I want to offer those of you who are watching my content a safe space over on my Discord. I have an area there for playing World of Warcraft Classic. We're doing Season of Discovery right now, and I'm going to be doing some of that on stream as well. So if you're enjoying that version of WoW, that's a place you can hang out. If you just want to chill and play Magic and try not to think about the world, or even better, use it as a way to recharge after thinking about the world, that's the important thing, recharging, not escapism, then please head over to my Discord, hop into the Magic the Gathering section of the Discord, and just make yourself known. Tell us your story. Hell, I'll be there personally as much as I can to say hi to anybody who does give your story. And if you think that I might not read it, why not at me in the server? You have my permission to. That all said, we'll go back to regular Magic the Gathering content after this, but I really needed to get this off my chest for the Magic the Gathering community that I've managed to build here on YouTube so far. I appreciate every one of you that's here, regardless of where you're at in your political leanings. But I want to let you guys know, this isn't the end. This is the beginning. This is where we start fighting way, way, way harder for our own human rights, for the people around you. I've told you my stake in this. I'm a cis hetero white guy. None of this affects me to a major degree, but it does affect the people I care about. Some of my best friends are trans. Some of them are gay. My girlfriend is trans. And there's plenty of friends of mine that are at risk in case they get raped. Yeah, I'm talking about that on a Magic the Gathering channel. You can deal with that. I'm sure you can. Again, there'll be a safe place over on my Discord. I'm just letting you guys know the score here. There's no hatred aimed at anybody for voting anywhere. This is just a call for those of you who don't think your vote matters and think that politics begins and ends at voting. Maybe it's time we have a discussion about how that's not really the case. Anyways, thank you for watching. If you want to support what I do, I have a Patreon. I have a Discord you can go and hop into. There's some weird super thanks thing system, I guess, that YouTube's rolled out now. I don't know what that is. And as always, everybody, insert end of video tagline here.